Oh my goodness, guys. Thank you for coming and hanging out on what is still known as the show. We could have come up with a name a long time ago, but since it's my channel, I'm just going to leave it as the show. You guys seem to enjoy the show, so welcome to it. Thank you for everybody who came and was hanging out with us last week as we were talking with Vera and Kendall Welpton about the Sleepless Unrest. For those of you guys who have not seen the Sleepless Unrest yet, it is available on a million different platforms right now. It is super cool. It is awesome. Vera, Kendall, and a couple of their friends spent 2 full weeks, 24/7 inside of the Conjuring house. You guys are going to see everything that went down inside of this house. Also, a little bonus is the fact that yours truly did a little voiceover for it. So go and check that out. Support Robot Ninja. That is their company. Go and check it out. If you have not watched the episode last week, please go and do so. But make sure that you take the time to go and watch The Sleepless Unrest. It's absolutely phenomenal. And big announcement, guys, we were having some problems with scheduling and things like that around me being able to do the show while maintaining my job and everything. And Keisha and I took some time. We talked with each other, and we have come to an accord. And she convinced me to leave my job and focus 100% on YouTube filmmaking and things like that. So that is our goal from now on, is going to be YouTube, making this thing happen, and my part-time job, which is also filmmaking. So guys, I'm stoked. We're going to make this thing happen. And the stokage has gotten even higher because you guys know that we've had Patrick, we've had all of these fantastic people on the show. But guess what, guys? Guess what? We have the other half of the haunted side and the whole of Cemetery Road. And that is the majestic, the wonderful, the absolutely delightful. You guys know him. You guys love him. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Spencer. How's it going, buddy?
It's going good, man.
I'm happy to have you here. Happy to have you.
Well, thanks. I'm happy to be hanging out.
We got the blue. It's like we're the Blues Brothers.
We didn't even plan that, guys.
We didn't. It's not.
If you guys have ever popped onto the Haunted Side live streams and stuff, I never have lighting behind me. I don't do anything too fancy. Generally, I'm inside of an old van. But this time I thought, why not just mix it up a bit? I wanted to keep the house cool and everything, and so I put up some lights, and then he pops on with blue lighting, and I'm like, oh, hey, it's almost like we planned this.
It's beautiful, isn't it? It's nice.
It's fun.
It gives a nice little vibe to the show. I think
that's right.
It's good. It's good. Where's my good side? Oh, that's right. They're both good. All right. So let's say hi to some people that are coming and hanging out. We've got Tony from the Haunted Side popping in to say hello. Awesome. If you guys have never gone over to Haunted Expeditions, do that. She's a good friend of ours from Tennessee, just right across the state line. We've done a lot of really cool stuff together. We've also got somebody that Jason and I know pretty well. Ladies and gentlemen, Crow of Judas is in the house.
Yo.
What up, Crow? What up, dude? And then we've got my good friend Connor from Bigfoot Anonymous is in the house, coming in and saying hi. Love that guy to death. He is fantastic. Can't wait to get the opportunity to finally work with that guy. We've got Paul McDonald coming in and saying hello. Wow, we got so many people here tonight. I'm just downright excited. We've also got my girl Keisha, my girlfriend and co-lead investigator. And
hello, Keisha.
That's because there's two of us, so we're both co-lead. A really good friend of ours, ladies and gentlemen, Dantex, aka Daniel Moreno, the embodiment of paranormal unity in one person. If you guys have not seen the episode with Daniel Moreno here on this show, I want you to go check it out. We gave him a nice surprise by inviting as many people as I could think of to come on to the show and just give thanks to him for everything that he does. Very emotional, very beautiful. Jason, I don't know if you know this. You are here.
So I heard.
Wow. It's crazy. Crazy.
The magic of the internet. I can be there and here at the same time.
It's insane. We've got Tamara Bananarama is in the house. How's it going, Tamara?
Hey, Tamara.
Derek Mary is in the house. You guys, this is awesome. We love having you guys come and hanging out with us. Make sure you're smashing those like buttons. Make sure you're sharing this out to everyone, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to bring more people on, is if they know about the show. But that's enough about what I'm talking about, because even though this is on my channel, Jason, my friend, this is your show.
Woo-hoo.
This is your show. So
like I need another one.
You do a lot, man. You do a lot. And let's go ahead. Let's just dive in to the goodness. And that is my first question of the evening. And it's the one that I asked to everybody. How did all of this get started, man? Like, was it an obsession with the paranormal? Was it just like, was it experience, skepticism?
Not an obsession. It was, I grew up watching horror movies like crazy. I think like every child of our generation, going to video stores, wandering the aisles, choosing the horror movie that had the creepiest title. And so I grew up on them, like from Friday the 13th, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, all the way to like Trolls and, flipping, what was that other one?
Yeah.
What's the one with the creatures coming out of the toilet? I'm totally blanking.
Critters? Was it Critters?
No, I did do Critters like crazy, but
Sliver?
No. This is great. This is a great show right here. Me trying to remember. But I watched everything, and probably because of that, like nothing really scared me that much. Like I wasn't afraid of little creatures coming tearing my face off, or a serial killer, much like Jason or Michael Myers coming in slashing and hacking. Ghoulies. Thank you, Crow. Thank you, Ghoulies.
Ghoulies.
You ever watch Ghoulies?
That's it.
Don't
I
watch
believe
it
I have.
right now.
I need to...
It's so disappointing now, but
dude, I love that old stuff still. I love it.
Oh,
it doesn't hold up, but it is still awesome.
No, there's definitely a sense of nostalgia that keeps those things alive right now. But so I wasn't afraid of horror movies. I grew up on them, like I said, from when I was a wee kid. But what did creep me out, what did like give me the nightmares kind of thing, were movies centered around ghosts or spirits or something like that. And for instance, one of the scariest movies I've ever seen is The Changeling. Not to be confused with Changeling with Angelina Jolie about child abduction, all that kind of stuff. The Changeling from the 1970s. It was such a frightening movie, and I absolutely loved it. I loved that feeling of scared that it would give me, that was different than anything else. And so I've always had that kind of in my mind. Like I love getting creeped out, and when I want to be creeped out, I'll watch something with ghosts in it. And then there was a point in my life, you watched Ghost Hunters, and when those kind of shows were peaking in the, what was it, early 2000s and stuff.
Early mid 2000s,
yeah. And so I loved watching those. Did you ever see the show on MTV called Fear?
Yes.
It was short-lived. So MTV had this show where they would take 6, I think, teenagers, college-age students, really, and put them in very famous haunted locations and give them tasks to do. So they'd set them up with cameras, and they'd be like, pick 2 of you to go down into the boiler room and, play with the Ouija board down there. And if they could survive the night, if they completed the tasks, they got money at the end. And it was fascinating. It was great. Only lasted 1 season. Looking up the history of that show, apparently it got canceled because it was just way too expensive to produce. Which that sucked, because it was a lot of fun. I think if they did it now, or if they did it maybe during the biggest like hype around all the ghost haunted shows, maybe it would have survived a little bit longer. But I always found those things fascinating, and I was like, oh man, that's really cool that people can go out ghost hunt and all that kind of stuff. And I grew up in Reno, Nevada, around Virginia City, so you always heard about ghost stories. and haunted locations and all that kind of stuff. And then I was at work one day, and my boss comes in and he's like, "Hey, you know that restaurant that I really like and go to all the dang time?" He's like, "Apparently it's haunted." I said, "Oh, do tell. What do you mean it's haunted?" And he's like, "Yeah, some TV show went in and did an investigation there, and they said it's super haunted. I watched the show, and it's pretty creepy." I'm like, "Oh, what channel is it on?" It's on YouTube. Go check it out. So he sent me the link, and it turned out to be the haunted side. When Patrick had a cameraman named Sean, they went to a local brew pub and investigated there because there were rumors that it was haunted. I watched the episode. I thought, man, the production value on this show was great. The two guys are, entertaining, and I really like it. I wonder what other places they've been. And so they didn't have much. The haunted side had just started, so there was just a few episodes. But I noticed more often than not that they were in the Reno, Nevada area, and so I was like, man, I wonder where they're from. Like, are they from here? Like, and so after doing a little digging, it turns out, yeah, they were. So I sent Patrick a message. I kind of a shot in the dark. Like, why not? Why not? Because at this time, I was also a filmmaker. I had been shooting and producing short films, some short documentaries, and so I was very interested. And so I just shot off a message that said, "Hey, man, if you ever need someone to help schlep gear, if you ever need like an extra camera guy for just like for one episode or something like that, just let me know." And then I completely forgot about it. Like, went on with life, all that kind of stuff. And probably like 2-3 days later, I get a call, or I didn't get a call. I got a message on Facebook, said, "Hey man, yeah, no, like we're good. We don't really have like a paying position or anything, but hey, thanks for the interest." So I responded with, "Oh, I wasn't looking for like a job, like a paying job or anything. I just, I'm interested in what you guys are doing, and I'm also a filmmaker in this area, so I was just offering help. But thanks anyway, man." And about a day later, he shoots back another message. He's like, "Well, let's have a conversation. Let's get together at this coffee shop nearby. We'll have a chit chat." Sure, why not? So day later, I take my lunch break. I go to the coffee shop. I hang out a little bit, and Patrick never shows. Doesn't show up. Doesn't text. Doesn't call. Doesn't write. Nothing. So I sat there for like an hour, just being like, "All right, well, I guess that was that." And then so I went back to work, and again, completely forgot about it. And I want to say it was like a month and a half, maybe 2 months later, I was in LA for a shoot, and I was literally packing up my vehicle to go to the shoot. It was a super busy day, and I get a message on Facebook from Patrick, and he's like, "Hey man, I don't know if you're still interested, but I could really use a cameraman because my original cameraman can't do one of the shoots." I was like, "Yeah, I'm in LA right now. I'll talk to you later, whatever." And I did my work. And then when I was heading back to Reno, I looked back at the messages. He had sent another one that was just like, "I'll just be honest with you. He quit. Stuff got too real for him, and he quit. So I really need help." And I was like, "Yeah, man. Well, let's get together and we'll figure something out." So I finally got together to have coffee with him, and he explained like, "Hey man, yeah, the day we were supposed to have coffee, I was supposed to, I was coming to meet you, but then I had an emergency. His son was sick or whatever, so he had to go take care of his son, and he tried to message me back, but he said, the original message was gone. Like, I don't know what happened to it." And apparently the other person that had access to the account, the old cameraman, was deleting my messages. Because apparently he was a little threatened by another cameraman coming in. I don't know. This is just what I've been told. So
gotta love it.
I couldn't contact you because I couldn't find you. And he said it took me forever to track you down, especially after Sean had quit. and that kind of started it. I joined him for an investigation at the Donner train tunnels, and
Mm-hmm.
it went well enough that he's like, all right, well, the next one's at this place and you want to go? And I'm like, sure, why not? And so it's been about 2 years now and I'm still investigating. So that's kind of how I joined the haunted side.
That's crazy. And I told you how I came across the haunted side. I was
Mm-hmm.
um I was sitting at home one night, and anybody who's seen the show knows, but if you don't know, I've been obsessed with the haunted side probably since about the time that Jason hopped onto the scene with them and with the Clean Water Demon House. You hadn't been there very long when that one went down, right?
No, I don't know how many I had done by that time. I mean, if maybe it was maybe 6 months, the first 6 months,
Yeah.
I was there, but yeah, that one, um,
That house was insane.
it was, and it was one of the first times that we were dealing with something that felt like it didn't want us there,
Mhm.
which is weird.
It's a crazy feeling.
It is. And I don't like that place. I don't really care for it. One, it's kind of a pain in the butt to get to. It's
Yeah.
you have to like trek through some really annoying bushes and sagebrush. And when we were filming, we were carrying a lot more gear than we carry now, and so we were just like hauling stuff from the car to the location. It was annoying.
It's like a football field and a half from where the car was.
Yeah, it's super dumb. And then to get that feeling that you're not wanted there, like that's another strike against it.
Yeah.
And it was great. I'm glad we went. We got some good episodes out of it, but it was
yeah.
it was a challenging location, and it was a challenging investigation for those reasons.
Yeah. Now, you are currently working on your own solo project, which is super exciting. We talked about how awesome it is when people kind of get the chance to do their own thing. And you've started, it's right there on your shirt. Go ahead and show everybody the Cemetery Road. So how did that come about?
A couple different reasons. As I said, I was already a filmmaker doing short documentaries, short films, all that kind of stuff before the Cemetery Road. But I hadn't done a lot of projects for a little while because, as you know, being a filmmaker is difficult. Like, especially if you're doing a job. Like if you have a normal 9-to-5 type job, you have a family, you have responsibilities. The filmmaking part of it, especially if you're doing it basically for free, is difficult to keep going. And so while I was still doing some short films here and there, I was entering, film competitions. I was doing, I think at the time when I was gearing up to be full time with the haunted side, I was working on a documentary that I had been shooting for like a year and a half. And so I was not super active in filmmaking, but I was still dabbling here and there. But when I joined haunted side, obviously I was filming a lot more. And I was doing documentary style filming, which is what I prefer. As much as I like doing short films and scripted things and working with actors and stuff like that, it's difficult. And I like streamlined filming. I like run and gun. I like the ability to really just focus on showing the story and not kind of creating a world and all that kind of stuff. So the documentary style filmmaking that we're doing with the haunted side appealed to me big time.
Yeah.
But filming that and that alone and not doing anything else, because I haven't done a short film in a while. I haven't done any other documentaries in a while. It gets a little old from a creative perspective. Yeah. I did kind of start leaning a lot towards photography over the last few years, which I absolutely love. I love taking pictures and that kind of stuff. But I found myself traveling to a lot of cemeteries over the last few years. Every time I saw one, I'd pull one over. Anytime I was on a road trip, checking them out, taking photos and all that kind of stuff. And it kind of struck me I'm like, why don't I do like a little kind of like travel vlog style show? Because I'm already going to the cemeteries. It's not like I'm going out of my way really. So why don't I do like a little travel vlog type show where I take people with me to these cemeteries. I show them the interesting stones that I find. Maybe as I start learning more about cemeteries and the intricacies of how they work and how they became cemeteries and all that kind of stuff, I can explain that. And as I said, you know, I got work, I got family, I got all that kind of stuff, plus plus the haunted side. If I was going to do it, if I was going to take on another show that it was going to be completely just me, then I had to do it in a way that was completely manageable for me. So, like I said, I'm already going to these places anyway, so that's not a problem. But I need to be able to make the episodes manageable for editing, all that kind of stuff. I can't make hour-long episodes. So I said, okay, 5 to 10 minute long episodes. That's a manageable thing for me. I didn't want to have to carry around a bunch of camera gear and all that kind of stuff. So I said, what if I shot it entirely on my phone? Phones are amazing these days. You know, the quality you get with your phone is better than most cameras that I've used in my filmmaking career. And if I can shoot it on my phone and edit it on my phone, because I didn't need something super crazy. I don't need special effects or, you know, all that kind of stuff. I just shoot it, edit it on my phone. The sound is good enough because most of the time it's B-roll with music over it. So I don't need like super quality high-end mics or anything like that. And if I can make it as easy to produce as possible, then I don't have any excuses not to do it. And it doesn't really get in the way of anything else I'm doing. And so I played around with that idea for a very long time, honestly. Like I was for almost a year. I was like, I should do this project. Nah, I don't have time. But you made it so you could have time. I don't know. What if nobody wants to watch it? I don't know. Going back and forth. And my friend Vivian Noir of the Dead Hours and the Murder Corner, I'd been talking to her about the project, and I was like, I have this kind of idea. What do you think about it? She's like, you should do it. And I was like, nah, well, I don't know. And I kept like throwing the same excuses I was telling myself to her. And she's like, no, it's a good idea. Just go do it. I was like, okay, maybe I will, maybe I won't. And so I sat down one day, I was super bored, and I just created the logo. And that was kind of the kick in the pants that I guess I needed. I'm like, well, that was fun. Like I had fun creating a very simplistic, like roadside logo.
Yeah.
And because I made something that was for the show, like suddenly it had a life because something was created for it. There was a logo, there was movement.
Yeah.
And so like literally the next day I went out to a cemetery and I shot basically a pilot for it. A pilot that's never been seen because I did it. I wasn't exactly happy with it. It was a way for me to kind of like, I knew what I wanted the show to be in my head. And I went out and I did a version of that and I edited it together. I showed Vivian. She's like, oh yeah, this is great. You should do this. But there were aspects of it where I was like, I don't like this. The B-roll wasn't very good in my eyes. My commentary wasn't very interesting. And so I tweaked it. I did some planning. I went out to another cemetery a few days later. I shot another one. I played around with that and I was like, I think I know what I want to do now. And so then I shot another one that was actually kind of like the first episode. But then I decided, because it just happenstance, I happened to be going back to Reno to shoot the haunted side. And I thought the best way to do the first episode is not just jump in, hey, I'm Jason, I'm walking around cemeteries. I wanted to do the origin story of why I was interested in cemeteries. And I just happened to be going back to Reno, and I had very clear access to the place that kind of kickstarted my obsession with cemeteries. which is Bowers Mansion in Reno. Well, it's off Reno, in between Reno and Carson City. If you guys have ever looked at a map of that area, it's an old mansion that was, Bowers, Mr. Bauer, Mrs. Bauer. They were big in the mining back in the day, and they had this very beautiful house that was kind of away from everything. And I went there as a kid for field trips half a dozen times over the years. And the thing that fascinated me the most was that there was a family burial plot on this trail above the house on this hill.
Wow.
It was the first time I'd ever seen a grave before. And I was blown away. I'm like, they just buried them on this hill? Like, there's the house, there's graves. Like, it blew me away. I was fascinated, because when you're a kid and you think graveyards, you think like, tombstones everywhere and creepy church, dilapidated creepy church or creepy mansion in the background, lightning in the sky. Like, it's a very horror movie-esque type vision. But this was a clear sunny day, and just these three small graves, because you had one for the mom and the dad, and then another one that I did the math on real quick in my head while I was there. I'm like, that person is my age. It was she was 13, I believe, 12 or 13, and she had died. The daughter had died of I think there was a pancreas problem. I think her pancreas blew or something, and she had died. But it was the first time that I understood my own mortality, if you will.
Yeah.
Because death happens to old people, not kids. Like, it was that first time where I'm like, oh, dang, like, I'm not going to live forever, and the end could come at any time, not just when I'm old and gray and just like in my deathbed, I love everybody. And
dude, that's kind of
me.
what happened to me. Like, I do that myself when I go into a cemetery from time to time. Is I look at, I don't know how it is, but I always find myself amidst the graves of children. And I don't know why that's where I end up, but it's where I end up. And I'm looking at the dates, and I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? This guy was like 6 months old, 5 years old. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, I mean, when I'm traveling around to these cemeteries, the majority of the graves I seem to come across are for children, because the mortality rate of children was super low. They get the sniffles and they're done for, kind of thing.
Yeah.
A lot of the places that I'm going to are smaller cemeteries in the middle of nowhere, so they did not have access to medical care right off the bat. So if you did get hurt or sick, and in today's world, you just pop a couple pills or take some rest and you're fine. Back then, like, getting a doctor out to you was not something you could do, and medicine wasn't available. And so, and not to mention just the rampant spread of like tuberculosis and scarlet fever, and all of those things that just kind of were wiping out children. And it's always sad. You see these family plots that it's like mom, dad, and like 7 children that did not make it. Like, I can't even imagine losing one child, let alone a bunch, because they only make it days, a year or two or something before some sickness or something wipes them out. And like, it would drive me insane. I would be a basket case. And that's part of one of the things that is, I love doing Cemetery Road. It's fun for me. It's interesting for me. I like the creative output I get from it. Like, it scratches a lot of the itches that I have creatively. But it does, I have started very quickly when I started doing the show. Like, I'll take a day, I'll take a Saturday, and I will drive and I will hit like 7 different cemeteries and shoot 7 different episodes. And then I don't have to shoot any episodes for weeks, maybe a month or 2, which is good, because I get kind of depressed going and seeing graves of children and, families that were just had a rough time, just a terrible time in life, because having to deal with all that, and I need a break from it sometimes. So as much as I love it, like it is a depressing project a lot of the times just because of that.
It definitely can be. We've investigated a couple of cemeteries, and it's a different level of dark. Like, it's I don't know how to explain it. Like, when you go into a building and it feels dark, it's like, okay, there's a negative entity here. But when you walk into a cemetery, how do I describe it? Not dark, heavy. It feels heavy.
Yeah,
Like, because
emotionally
there's so
heavy.
many emotions. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know what you're going to be hit with. You go into a cemetery, and then you just see all the children's graves, and you see the fact that people died tragically for one reason or another, and it's just, that's a heavy feeling. You go into another cemetery, and you get a feeling of like restfulness and peacefulness.
Yeah.
And you don't know what you're going to get either way. Like, you don't know.
Correct.
And you could go into a cemetery and be like, this is a really nice place. There's clouds in the sky, and you can hear the birds chirping and a slight breeze through the trees. This is a restful place. And then you're just like, child grave after child grave after child grave. And mine fire took out all these people. And then suddenly that peaceful, restful place has turned into something that's heavy with emotion. That's a saddening place.
Yeah.
And
it's
those
the
mixed
realization.
together odd. Yeah. You have to be emotionally prepared for going into cemeteries as much as I do. Because if you're not, man, you could just start drinking real early.
Yeah, I can imagine. So we've actually got a couple of things here from some people asking a question. We got Paranormies are in the house, and they wanted to ask, hey, I've got a question for Jason. If the Haunted Side and Cemetery Road, or is the Haunted Side or Cemetery Road your full-time job, or do you have anything else you do for day work?
It is not my full-time job. It would be awesome if it was, but no, I actually have like a regular 9-to-5 type job that's not all that interesting to talk about. And then I do Cemetery Road and Haunted Side on the side.
Yeah. And then another question for you is really more of a statement from them is, also, I'm really interested in seeing some of your old film work, if there is any way to see some of that from before the Haunted Side.
I mean, it's pretty terrible. Any filmmaker who says everything I've ever done is great are lying, and everything they show you is going to be terrible anyway. My stuff, like, I started out pretty early not knowing what the hell I was doing. I didn't go to film school. Learning things on YouTube was not heard of at that time. You learn as you do, kind of thing. The only things I'm like super proud of, there's a couple of shorts that I did that I really like. And then my documentaries I did a food truck documentary and a restaurant documentary that I did a lot of hard work with those. And, but you can find anything that I feel like showing people on my Stormfront creative YouTube channel. That's also where I post the behind the scenes of the Haunted Side, because again, I had a creative itch that needed scratching, and this was before I was doing Cemetery Road. And me and Patrick were going out to a ghost town in the middle of nowhere, kind of thing. And I thought, why don't I shoot some behind the scenes stuff? I don't know what to do with it, but why not? So I kind of didn't even ask him if it was okay. I just started like whipping out my phone and like shooting behind the scenes. And then I put it together in a video, and I just put it up on my channel, and I'm like, hey, look, you want to see what it's like filming the Haunted Side? Here you go. And I really like doing it. And I think those who did watch it, not a whole lot of people watched those episodes, liked it. And so I don't do it for every investigation because honestly, we're just too busy. But I do try and do it every once in a while. And I actually have like a nearly hour-long behind the scenes for one of the trips we just took, like ready to go, but I can't post it until we're kind of at the end of putting out those episodes because it's kind of spoilery. But I enjoy doing those. And so if you're all interested in kind of behind the scenes stuff, that's where you would go find all those things.
I do love some good BTS, man, because
Mm-hmm.
it's in those moments that people are seeing the real you almost. Because obviously when you're in investigation mode, there's a switch that flips in your mind and you're focused,
Mm-hmm.
But when people get to see that BTS and see just how insane you really are, I think that's really cool. That's one of my favorite things about buying films and things like that is still watching the behind the scenes stuff. It's so cool. And then Derek Mary actually says, would you consider doing something here in Scotland? Do you think that's something that Americans would be interested in?
Absolutely. I've visited Scotland a couple times in the past, and I've gone to a ridiculous amount of cemeteries in Scotland. But again, that was before I did Cemetery Road, and so that's one of the things I would love to do is to kind of travel again outside of America and do some more cemeteries, because I mean the ones that I was hitting in like uh, Edinburgh were amazing. It was just ridiculous cemeteries over there. So I would definitely do that big time.
And then Crow of Judas is actually working on a documentary right now, documentary of his bathroom.
I
So
can see that.
yeah, and yeah, that seems like a very Crow thing to do. But yeah, no, this is awesome. I love that we've got so many people in here tonight. And dude, so where are? All right, here's a really good question. I think, and it's dangerous when I think, but here we go. Um, where is one place that you would love to hit a cemetery that you've never been to, that you would love to
I
film?
mean, anything in New Orleans would be great. Anywhere in New Orleans, anywhere really on the East Coast. Like I've been in around the Boston, Massachusetts area. I've gone to cemeteries out there, including like one of the oldest cemeteries in America because it's like right by Plymouth Rock. It's like right
That's
when
so
the people
cool.
stepped off the boat and they started burying people. I've been out there, but obviously I didn't film out there. I've taken photographs out there. I would love to get back out there and shoot some there. Maybe someday I will. Like I will someday.
Yeah.
But it's just right now it's on the bucket list kind of thing. It's out there being like, man, I'm gonna do that, but I don't know when. Maybe in the next year or so. But yeah, there's too many. There's too many cemeteries out there, and I find something interesting in almost every one I go to. Not every cemetery I go to, I film an episode.
Yeah.
I don't want to like go to a cemetery that's maybe doesn't capture that interest for me. And not to say like the people buried there, their stories aren't worth me putting an episode together for, but it's hard to do something super interesting with a cemetery that's just covered with like plain Jane flat stones all the way down. Like, more modern cemeteries, memorial gardens, if you will. It's hard to make that look interesting. And so when I go to a cemetery and I don't put in a whole lot of work to create an episode, I still wander that cemetery. I look at nearly every stone I can. I pay my respects to the people there. I try to be as respectful as possible, but creatively, some locations just aren't interesting visually or anything like that. And some places you get the feeling like maybe I shouldn't film here. Like, for instance, you go to a location, you're like, oh, let's see if I can film an episode here. And there's a funeral going on. And you're just like, nope, I'm going to kind of hang back. I'll pay my respects and I'll leave because I'm not. No, I'm there to pay respect and be respectful at these locations. I don't want ever to have made somebody uncomfortable while I was there or anger anybody. That's just not what I'm there for.
Yeah. Selena says that she wants to take you to an old cemetery in Galveston, Texas. Galveston's got a lot of history,
Nice.
man. A lot of history. So
yeah, I've been
uh,
to a few in Texas. Super interesting cemeteries. Me, Patrick, went to Texas for a trip. We did like 3 different locations there at the beginning of this year. And so while, don't got anything to do during the day between investigations, I popped out and I checked out cemeteries, and there were a lot of really cool ones.
yeah. And Tony, my good friend from Haunted Expeditions, we've got a huge cemetery out here in Tennessee. The dates go back to the 1800s. We've got some pretty crazy old ones. We've actually got I've got an episode coming out here about Lost Creek Cemetery, which is literally a cemetery that is in the middle of a national forest that is sitting like, we're talking like 10, 15 miles back in the woods. Like, it's almost completely forgotten about. Revolutionary War graves, like old stuff. Absolutely crazy. So you mentioned something earlier when you said, I sat down and just, without even knowing it, I made the logo for the show. And I want to point something out. Not for you, but for everybody watching, because this is something that happens to me too. I will have an idea that pops into my head, and I'm like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden, I realize that I've made a logo for it, and I'm like, dang it, I guess I got to do it now. Like, it's
all
just,
it takes is that little push. Happens. Yeah. Once you give something any sort of life, be it a logo, be it a theme song, be it just a photo reference, like, once you give it that little bit of life, if it's meant to be, like, you can't stop yourself. You have to at least try. Yeah. You have to, make something out of it. Because I could have made the first episode of Cemetery Road and showed it to Vivian, and she could have been like, yeah, it's not really as interesting as you made it out to be. And it probably would have died right there in some form or fashion. But, it did give me that push. And for, at least in my experience as a creative, like, just getting over that hump of something from an idea into a reality, like, that's the hardest part. And that's all it took for this project, was to finally do something with it, give it some sort of life, even if it was just a logo. Like, that's what it took. And there's been projects that I've had in my head for years that, just the plain fact that I'm still thinking about them mean that I should do them at some point. But I haven't gotten that little push over the edge yet, but someday.
Well, it is a huge thing, because I don't know about for you, but for me, doing the whole creative thing and coming up with these new ideas and being like, I don't know if I should do that. It all comes down to the fear of whether, if I put this piece of myself out there, is it going to be accepted?
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much fear behind there. And I think it's important to just kind of sit down and at some point do something like make a logo or a theme song or, whatever, just to kind of feel if it's right to put out.
Yeah. And when it comes to, like, if I put my heart and soul into some sort of piece of art or creativity, is anybody else going to feel anything from it? And that's a big deal. And we're on the internet right now. It's full of jerks and people who are just want to tear other people down. And it's a rough place to be creative. We do the haunted side, and you put out an episode and you get people in the comments being like, oh, this is fake, this is stupid, you guys should stop talking so much, those are noisy pants you're wearing. Like, they'll find anything they can to just tear you down. And generally that means they are unhappy with their own life, that there's something missing from their own life, and they just want to make sure nobody else is happy. Because you know what? Happy people don't go on the internet and tear other people down. They don't need to. They're satisfied with life. They're happy with life. There's no reason for them to do that. It's the people that just are miserable. They're angry. They're, whatever. And they don't want anybody else to be happy or to feel a thing of accomplishment with something. And that's something I had to get over real quick when I started doing things creatively, all the way back when I started doing films, when I started doing photography, when I started writing. I know it's not going to be for everybody. Something I write, something I take a picture of, like, people are going to be like, I don't know. I still have people that right now, they're just like, so you go to cemeteries and you just make little videos, and well, that sounds weird. That sounds dumb. Like, I don't know why you would do that. I don't care if you understand why I do it. Like,
exactly.
It doesn't matter, because obviously this isn't for you. So you can just look away. Simple as that.
Well, so one of the things that I get a lot of the time, like, I'm surprised at how often people, when they ask me what I do, and I say, I talk to dead people. I'm a paranormal investigator. I run a paranormal YouTube, whatever. Most of the time it's, oh, dude, that's awesome. So I've got some questions. But there's also these times where they're like, you're weird. Why would you do that? And I simply say, A, because I want to, and B, thank you. I know I'm weird. That's the reason that I'm the one out here and you're not. You know, like, I'm fine with being weird, dude.
Yeah, I have really good friends of mine who, when I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing an investigation next week or whatever, they're like, that just sounds so stupid. I'm like, cool. Well, it's a good thing you're not invited, huh?
Why don't you grab your tennis shoes and join me and tell me if it's still stupid?
Yeah,
oh wait, it's not? Yeah, I didn't think so.
I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter if you think it's stupid. I don't care if you, this is not how I would spend a weekend. Well, it's a good thing you're not then. Like, just shut up. Like,
fine. You go be normal over there.
Yeah, just you go do what you like, man. Like, you know, my friend be like, well, that's something stupid. I don't know. I wouldn't do that. Oh, what are you doing next weekend? Oh, I'm going to work on my car. I've been meaning to do this. Cool. Do you see me being like, working on your car? That's stupid. That sounds like a waste of time. You're dumb. No, I'm not. I'm just like, cool.
Take it to a shop.
I'm like, whatever makes you happy, as long as you're not hurting somebody else, like, go do that. Like, do what brings you joy in life.
Exactly.
Don't crap on what bring other people joy in life, because that just makes no sense. You're choosing, at that point, you're choosing to be miserable, and you're choosing to be hateful. You are making that decision to hurt somebody else, to attempt to make you feel better. That's a terrible way to live, and you're just a jerk.
And that's why
I've learned.
I love these communities out here.
Yeah, and that's what I've learned being a creative person. Is like, and trust me, it hurts every time when you put yourself out there. As much as I want to be like, well, then go do your own thing. Like, just leave me. Like, that doesn't mean I don't get hurt when somebody calls what I do stupid or says what I did was crappy or whatever. I remember one time I was having, there's a big, like, art festival where I was living. Mm-hmm. And I had the ability to post a bunch of my photography. So I had a little room, a little art gallery, if you will. I printed and framed a bunch of photography. I put it up all over the walls. And I also had, like, some of my short films playing in the background. And I was super proud of it. I'm like, I can't believe, like, I have, like, a little art show going on. This is great. And I was standing around talking to a friend, and another guy, I knew who he was, but we weren't friends or anything. He comes up and he's like, oh yeah, they'll just kind of let anybody put stuff up at this festival, huh? Because this is just garbage. And wow. He didn't know it was mine. And so I just was sitting there and I'm just like, that sucks. Like, screw that guy. But then that kind of soured the whole thing for me. Like, I was sitting around being like, well, who else are all these people sitting around saying that this sucks? Like, is everybody just, like, walking out of this room, like, trashing the stuff that I put out there? Like, this is my best stuff. I put best stuff out there. I spent a lot of money to produce this gallery. And, like, is everybody thinking this? And they weren't. I actually sold quite a few of my photos that year. And
which is awesome.
Yeah, but it's that one guy, like, right there. He's just like, ugh, this is gross. Like, this is stupid. And it wasn't like it was, like, cemeteries and ghost stuff. Like it was landscape photography and architectural photography and stuff like that. And you know, that was early on in my creative life, and like you gotta get a thick skin for it. Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, but it also doesn't mean that you need to put up with it either.
Exactly. And you know, I mentioned it a minute ago. That's what's so great about 95% of the paranormal community on YouTube is the fact that we've all got each other's backs. There's so many people out there, though. There's so many different communities where that is not the case. Where it's always, I'm doing better than you're doing. It's never, hey,
and I
how are
didn't know,
you doing?
I didn't know that was the point to do better than somebody else. And I've dealt with those kind of communities from the second I started doing anything creative. When I started doing filmmaking, there was a small filmmaking community in Reno, and I quickly discovered that the entire point of that community was trying to, in some form or fashion, do better than everybody else.
One-upmanship. It's disgusting.
It was, someone put it like this, and I think it kind of, it doesn't matter what creative community you're in, this kind of applies. One guy that I was friends with who was also a part of this community and kind of dealing with it, he's like, I feel like somebody told everybody in this film community that there's an open spot in Hollywood, and one of us gets to have it. We just have to be on top when they pull the trigger. And I was like, that's absolutely what it feels like. It feels like everybody is trying to make sure everybody else is underneath them in some form or fashion. Like, for instance, one of the guys in the film community at the time, I had met him for the very first time, and he reached out his hand, he shook my hand, and the very first thing he ever said to me was, "And what have you done?" Like, that was, and that's how he said it. It wasn't like, oh, so what projects have you worked on? Like, I'm genuinely interested in what you have accomplished. It was, and what have you done? Like,
that's
and
disgusting.
From that second on, I'm like, well, this guy's a douchebag.
Yeah, exactly.
But that feeling, that idea that everybody in the community has to be on top of, and standing upon the heads of everybody else. It was in the filmmaking community. It was in the photography community. It was in every single community I have been a part of. And that's why I kind of steer away from all of them. I'm there to do what I want to do, and I don't want to kind of be a part of any of it, because I've done that and it sucks and I can't stand it. And I don't get it. I don't get how someone who chooses to be creative in some form or fashion, they want to be a photographer, a filmmaker, a paranormal investigator, the best quilter in the world. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't understand how other people who want to do that same thing, who took the chance, learned the craft, know how hard it is to put yourself out creatively into the world for acceptance, would trash somebody else who was doing that exact same thing. Like, how difficult it is. How stressful it is. And you want to add to that? Like, that makes no sense to me.
Well, it's so, in those moments, people don't understand how easy it is to tear somebody down, because it's like I said earlier, when you as a creative person, when we are putting something out there into the world, it's literally a reflection of a piece of us. And if somebody wants to take it and tear it down, that is a personal attack. They're not attacking that piece of art that you've put out there. It's a personal attack on the person that put it out there. And nobody looks at it like that. Somebody has taken, it may not be the most beautiful thing that you've ever seen in your life, but it's still beautiful because it's a part of that person. And people need to get their heads out of their rectums and start acting right. But somehow it's still all the way up.
Yeah, all the way up there. And I know, we have this conversation, and there's people out there who may be watching it who are like, oh, that just sounds like you don't know how to take constructive criticism. I know what constructive criticism is. 99% of the time I get, what I consider to be a negative comment on anything I do, be it face to face or be it online.
Yeah.
It's not it's not constructive criticism. It is someone trying to hurt me.
Yeah.
For some reason. Constructive criticism is, pointing out something that can be done better and doing it in a way that is trying to uplift that person and not tear them down. Like, hey man, the music during this point was like, for some reason it was like super loud, like louder than everything else in the episode. It would probably be best if, you brought that down. That is constructive criticism, because what they're doing is they're pointing at something saying this could be better and it will make your thing better. And if someone wants to help make it better, and it doesn't mean you have to do what that suggestion is, if someone came to me and said, you know what, Cemetery Road would be so much better if all the parts where you're talking are gone. All I want to see is the B-roll. All I want to see is, music and slow motion shots of tombstones. It would be better that way. I could be like, yeah, okay, that is a perfectly valid thing to say. Like, I'm super glad that you love my B-roll. Like, I'm very proud of my B-roll.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't want to be on the screen talking. So like, I get that. I'm not going to do that, but you know what? Go check out the Cemetery Road TikTok. All I post are the B-roll shots of episodes, and you're good to go. Thanks. So
but don't come at me and tell me that what I'm putting out is hot garbage and give me no evidence or anything to support what you're saying, because that just means that you're a douchebag. And
because
ain't nobody
that's not the creative or the critique I'm getting. Like, what we're talking about is when they come up and be like, I hate your face, you're stupid, this is a stupid video, wish you weren't in it. Like, and then when I'm like, well, you're a jerk, they're like, oh, you just can't take constructive criticism. And I'm like, no, you don't understand what those words mean. Because you're an idiot.
Dictionary.
Like they always want to like act like they're the ones that have been attacked or offended. Like, I didn't come into your house and push this in your face. Like, you sought my stuff out, you watched it, and you decided like, well, I'm going to ruin this guy's day because I have nothing better to do because my life's sad and depressing. And my whole thing is like, you know what? There's not just one channel on YouTube. I don't know if you knew this. There's a lot of channels on YouTube. You can go watch something that you would rather watch and stop sitting around watching the things you don't like and just commenting. Like, all you're doing is building more hate in your heart. Why would you do that? That seems like a waste of a life to me. Exactly. I could go on and on. Like, this is like my soapbox type of thing. Like,
you are allowed, man. You're allowed. You're allowed to have these emotions and these feelings. We all have them. You're just saying it right now. Yeah. And I appreciate that. But guys, we've got to start wrapping this up. Sadly, we just got into some good. We just got into the finger licking good stuff.
Maybe next time.
We're gonna have to have you back, Jason.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Sure. We're good. We're gonna have to do it. Okay.
Son of a...
We're gonna have to. All right, but guys, as you guys have noticed on the ticker down below, that has been going on this whole time.
I have dogs.
God. But if you guys have noticed down below on the ticker that has been scrolling by this whole time, I've got Jason Spencer. All of his links are down there. That's right. It's not just him. We've got the links to the Haunted Side. We've got links to Cemetery Road. All of that stuff is down below. The Instagram, the Facebooks, the YouTubes, all of that stuff is down there in the description. Okay? Guys, go and follow and abuse with as much love as you possibly can everything that this man is putting out. Because as we've seen here, and I already knew it on the inside. I did. Jason is a fantastic gentleman. He is.
I do try.
And I mean, look at that. He's not just a gentleman. He's dapper. He's dapper. So go and check that out. Also, guys, if you want to check out anything that I'm doing on the Instagrams, the TikToks, and the Facey Space, you can find me there. Okay? That's where you guys can plug in, if you will, and get more info about the paranormal of the Sparks. And that's how we do that. Also, if you guys, as you found out, we are now devoted 100% to YouTube. If you guys want to support the channel, support the show, so we can bring you guys, there's the words, we can bring you guys better and better content, better shows. We can go to these bigger and better locations to bring you guys even better investigations. We've got merch, we've got PayPals, all that stuff is down there as well, guys. But when you're out there and you're following Jason and the Cemetery Road and the Haunted Side, and you come across anybody in the paranormal community, show love, show support. The follows, the likes, the sharings, the comments, all of that stuff. Do it. Do it. Just because it's not the way that you go about it doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong or they're doing it wrong. It's an opportunity to learn, to make another move, to get better. And as I tell you guys all the time, take every chance that you can, take every day that you can, and learn one new thing. It'll make you better today than you were yesterday. Show that love, show that support, and get better every day, guys. And Jason, anything that you have to say before we roll out?
I will just close it out with the way I close out every episode of Cemetery Road. When you are out there, be safe and be respectful.
That's right. And in the immortal words of this guy, don't be dumb. All right. By the way, that shirt is available at the merch store, guys. Oh, and yeah, there it is. He's got merch too. Look, show the shirt again. Show the shirt again. Do. Oh, yeah, it's hot.
That's right.
All right. So, guys, go follow, love, all that goodness. We love you all. God bless. And we will talk to you next time on Spark.